What I'd like to do in this session is to talk a little bit about using literature in the classroom. Literary texts are just one kind of text, but I've found it sometimes texts drawn from literature, whether it's novels, short stories, poems, plays, can provide a particularly rich kind of input in the classroom. And also can be used to generate interesting language. And I'll show you an example of that in just a moment. Many teachers are afraid of literature for a number of reasons. One is that sometimes when we say literature, we tend to think of the classics. So in Italian, you might be thinking about Dante or Boccaccio. In English, we might think of Shakespeare or Milton. And those are great texts, but those are not really the first kinds of texts that I would think about using in a classroom. I've found typically that 20th century and 21st century literature is often a better place to look for texts which are accessible to even fairly low-level learners in the classroom. Poems by writers like William Carlos Williams, for example. D.H. Lawrence actually wrote some very simple, straightforward poetry. And many 20th century writers stripped language down, and they made poetry which is much more accessible. And writing generally as well. You think about how Hemingway wrote. He walked into the room, he looked at her, she turned away. That's like a whole Hemingway paragraph there. This is really simple language that learners can engage with. We can do anything we want with texts. And one of the basic principles underlying this whole series of activities is that texts are not sacred. We don't have to do the whole text. We can use part of the text. We can rearrange it. We can play with it. We can alter it. We can do anything we want. Our purpose is teaching language. That's what we want to do. And we don't need to lead our learners to understand a text in a particular way. We can use the text for them to engage with the written or spoken word, and we can use it to encourage their own forms of creativity.